I have made myself an enemy of the transgender lobby, and I stand by my claims that I believe this lobby is vicious and it's dangerous, particularly in the ways that it impacts children. Here to discuss this with me, I am honored to be sitting across from Walt Heyer. He is a public speaker and the author of a book entitled Trans Life Survivors. Walt Heyer, welcome to the Candace Owens Show.
Candace, thank you so much for having me on. I'm thrilled to be here to be able to talk about this very important subject.
I mean, so you and I got in touch. I had done the episode with Abigail Schreier, and her and I sort of discussed what's really going on, which most parents aren't aware of in the school system.
Right.
And in many cases, they're sitting across from children, and teachers are telling children that they can pick their genders. And this as a point of confusion in what it does for a child, I find it threatening. I find it threatening to me as someone who's going to have, hopefully, God willing, have children of my own someday. And I think that if we don't get in front of it, it's going to be very dangerous.
Well, in the household that I was in, my mom and dad encouraged, our natural genders, but it was my grandma, when she was babysitting me, that somehow we got involved in this whole thing because she made dresses, and I became curious about this idea of her making dresses. So she made me a purple chiffon dress, and then she began to affirm how cute I looked.
How old were you?
I was 4.
4 years old.
And so this affirmation process, which, as a 4-year-old, you don't know. I mean, it's grandma, so it's got to be okay. And so when you have an adult encouraging you and nurturing you along in this way, you don't realize that this curiosity that you have as a child is also a quiet curiosity, because you're really trusting the adult to guide you, to nurture you, and give you good information. I didn't realize what grandma was doing was going to be very destructive later on. So the consequences of her affirming me became very destructive. I think it's actually evil, and it's child abuse to indicate that you can change genders at such a young age. And I'm
So your grandmother made you a dress.
Right.
And you were 4 years old.
Yeah. And so then that whole thing began what today they would call gender dysphoria, but it's really just child abuse wrapped up in a purple dress that she made for me, and that confused my idea about who I was. You actually introduce gender confusion or gender dysphoria. You're not born with it. You're not born with a different brain. You're not born in the wrong body. All people are at conception, their gender and sex are fixed. After that, then adults play with this idea, and that's what grandma was doing with me and confusing me. So that idea planted in my head, it really upset me. I mean, I'd go to bed at night wondering, should I have been a girl? What's wrong with me? And so, this is in the 40s, Candace, before they even had the term gender dysphoria or any other term, transgenderism. I was dealing with this all on my own. But the key thing here is that not only is it's child abuse in its results, because my uncle, who found out by the time I was about 7 years old, my parents finally found out what grandma had done, and I was taken out of grandma's house, and I wasn't allowed to go over there anymore. But once my uncle realized that I had been wearing a purple dress, then I became his opportunity to be sexually molested. He started sexually molesting me because of the purple dress. What happens when you begin to introduce these ideas that you can change your gender, change your sex, is you begin the early sexualization of children, which is abhorrent. It shouldn't be done. It shouldn't be allowed. We're interfering with their natural development. These are children that are exploring every opportunity and trusting adults to guide them and to nurture them properly, but introducing all this sexuality and all of these things at such an early age is very disturbing. Society, a healthy psychological society, is built on families, and kids are the core of the next generation. And if we're ripping our kids apart in school with this ideology, we're ruining even the next generation. And this is why it's so critical to address this issue. We should not be teaching children in school that they can change genders. It's not a vending machine for genders. This is a critical issue that needs to be removed from the school. LGBT material doesn't need to be in our public schools. Reading, writing, arithmetic is what we need in our schools, not LGBT agenda stuff. Yeah, we're calling for it today.
Right.
We're calling for children to not be put in these places where they're teaching. We need to take it out of schools. This has become a recruitment center. Schools have become a recruitment indoctrination center for LGBT ideology. They're ruining kids with this. Books and all of these things that they're introducing to children as early sexualization. Folks, it's child abuse, and it's got to stop.